Hi, I'm Nick Shell with Family Friendly Daddy Blog. About 2 hours ago, I invented a concept that I'd like to share with you. I believe it's profitable for all of us, but I believe a lot of people will either ignore it altogether or will refuse to believe that it's even humanly possible if you're not Nick Shell. Here we go. Let's get started. There's five aspects of your life that if you learn to master them, all 5 of them, then you gain power back over your own life. But yet most people are not willing to do this. They may do 1 or 2 or 3, but they won't do all 5. What's the first one? The first one is emotions. The easy thing to do is to allow other people to control our emotions. The easy thing to do is to let someone flip us off on the interstate and then we get upset about that. Or maybe someone at work, a coworker, says something that sort of implies we're not the best at what we do, and then we get offended. Or maybe a family member, you're trying to tell them a story and they're kind of too busy to listen. They just kind of pass you off and brush you off. It's easy to give those people power over our emotions on a constant daily basis. But it is a decision to say, but what if I controlled my own emotions? What if I turned that switch off and realized I control this, not the entire free world? That's number 1. Controlling your own emotions to where you don't let other people control them for you. Number 2 is food. This is a tough one, right? Especially here in America where we're such an obese, overweight nation, right? And we grow all this food to feed the animals that we eat. It's easy to eat too much. And yet, ironically, we're told, well, make sure you're getting enough protein. Who are these people that aren't getting enough protein either way? Anyway, aside from maybe someone who has an eating disorder, that's aside from the point. We're brainwashed to believe eat more protein. And what happens? We eat too much protein. We eat too much fat, too much oil, too much cholesterol, too much sugar, too much processed food. That's what happens. Instead of eating less of those things, we eat the most of the things that hurt us the most. And when it comes to, fresh vegetables and fruit and, regular plant stuff, no, you're a health freak if you focus your meals around that. Even the concept of eating less meat scares people. It's an attack on them. It's identity protective cognition. Eat less meat, but I need to get more protein as they're overweight, as they're in line on course to get onset diabetes, right? And there's irony in that. That's why I think a lot of people can't even get past the second point on that. That's number 2, controlling food. Number 3 is money. And this one affects so many people. I can tell you, my wife and I were in tens of thousands of dollars of debt the first half of the first decade of our marriage. And on the second half, we're the opposite. We're putting money in saving. I'm a stay-at-home dad. I lost my job, true story, 3 or 4 months ago, and we're still putting money into savings because we're that strict on managing where every dollar goes so it doesn't manage where we go. Next is time, very similar concept. But I think we take this one for granted. We have all these minutes in our day. We maybe have a 15-minute increment. It's easy to look on Facebook. Oh, what are they doing? Like, right? But what if we were creating during those times instead of consuming? What if, oh, I'm so exhausted. Let me go watch The Godfather. Let me spend 3 hours watching The Godfather on Netflix. Let me watch all of Breaking Bad in 1 week. It's easy to do those things because we deserve those things. We want to consume. Oh, the game's on. Let me spend all afternoon watching this sports game, right? And we could be creating in that time, but instead we're consuming. We're not building up ourselves and our skill set. We're plugging into some other system. We're not controlling our time. Therefore, it controls us. Whether it's 5 minutes, an hour, an afternoon, we can choose to control our time by creating during that time instead of consuming. And then lastly, creativity. A little bit of an oddball entry on my list, I'll admit it, but creativity. Here's why I'm putting this one on the list. Most people, by default, when there's a problem, what do? They blame another person. They blame the establishment. It's easier to blame another person or the establishment, or it's just my fate. It's easier to blame something else or someone else. And I'm not saying you should blame yourself. I'm saying find a new way to do it. If it's not working, stop doing it that way. Even if everybody else says, well, this is the best way to do it. If it's not working, maybe there's a better way, and maybe you need to use your brain muscles to figure that out. So much of my life, so much of my identity is based on this. I mean, just for the fact you've made it 5 minutes into this video, I created all of this 2 hours ago. I made all this up. I created it. I chose to use my right. Instead of consuming, I created something. And that's so important in life. Problems happen every day, all day long, and they always will. And if we rely on only on what other people have done to try to solve problems, it's going to fail us a lot of the time. What if there's a better, efficient way to figure out how to do this? That's why creativity made the list. In closing, consider this. What if you chose to be in control of all 5 of these things? Emotion, food, money, time, creativity. What if you were the master of all of those things of your own life? Imagine how much control you'd have over your future, as opposed to default failure coming your way and being a victim. You can control this. You can have so much control over your own life by focusing on these 5 things. It just goes back to Metallica, doesn't it? It goes back to the master of puppets pulling your strings. That's the thing. Most people let other things control them instead of them controlling, because they think they don't have the power, they don't have what it takes. It's a conscious decision to think unlike the rest of the world, to think unlike society, to be anti-mainstream when it requires the job. I'm Nick Shell, and I invented this system about 2 hours ago, and now I share it with you. I invite you to join me. Become enlightened with Nick Shell.